Porsche Carrera Cup Germany visits the Sachsenring. The world's oldest and most legendary one-make cup returns to action on a circuit that matches its tradition. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3 seconds, thanks to 485 HP and a host of emotion. Only 5 race weekends will be staged this year due to the coronavirus, but the race weekends include up to 3 races, as is the case at the Sachsenring, and we're off. The circuit, about 30 kilometers west of Chemnitz, is rich in tradition. As early as 1927, hundreds of thousands of spectators saw motorcycle races at the Sachsenring, some of which included the city centre. One of the most famous sections, the Badberg Turn. The youngest drivers, supported by the Carrera Cup Germany's youth program, the so-called talent pool, visit the turn this weekend.
I really can't imagine driving around the streets, especially with motors and with the safety standards we're dealing with today. It must be insane. I would definitely want to give it a try, but I think they don't allow me to drive as fast as I want through the streets.
The track back then, an 8.7 kilometer long blend of a city circuit on cobbles and narrow turns on the one hand and long straights on roads on the other hand. It is similar to Le Mans, where the talent pool drivers laid down a marker in the opener. Lauren Heinrich and Leon Köhler made it to the podium at the historic circuit in the west of France. First of all, let me say, Le Mans is one of the greatest tracks I've ever competed on, and to be so successful at this circuit is really special. Le Mans was an absolute highlight. I made it to the podium in my second Carrera Cup race and finished 4th overall, with 52 drivers competing. At this legendary circuit, under difficult conditions, a superb experience. A clear sign that Porsche's youth program is bearing fruit. Experts comprehensively coach the young drivers in the talent pool, now in its 3rd year. Media and mental training, fitness sessions, and of course driving skills are on the schedule. Wolf Hensler is responsible for the latter.
Ich betreue die Rookie-Fahrer, die mehr oder weniger dann im Talentpool sind.
I guide the rookie drivers in the talent pool. I make sure the drivers get a grip in the Porsche as soon as possible. I also support them when they struggle on the track, when they aren't sure how to take certain turns. For instance, we watch onboard videos or moments from last year. Tony Wolf has made it through the talent pool. The driver from Saxony lives close to the track and presents it from a driver's perspective.
Hello and welcome to my 3.6 kilometer long home racetrack, the Sachsenring. We reached something about 230 k's, brake down to 2nd gear into the first corner. It goes a little bit downhill. Try to have a nice and smooth exit for the long left-hander. Try to take as much as you can the curb for straight braking into the long Omega corner. Takes really long to turn the car, the apex is really late. Now it goes again uphill into the so-called Sternquell corner. I drive it in V-style to have a good and straight exit for the long left-hander. It's really difficult to keep the car well balanced. It will understeer a lot at the exit. Uphill again, short and hard braking, onto throttle again. Now we can't see the exit, it's really tricky here. The car gets really light at the apex. On throttle. Now we reach to my favorite part of the track, the downhill part. We will reach something about 250 k's. Hard braking here, shifting down to 4th. Some drivers also use the 3rd gear for a better rotation. Use all the exit curb here. Short and hard braking again, uphill. Try to have a nice and smooth exit for the long uphill straight. And yeah, that was 1 lap at the Sachsenring with me.
Guest driver Wolf set the 9th fastest lap time in qualifying for race 1. but a better result would have been possible. His fellow Huber driver, Larry ten Voorde, sealed pole position, but the latter is the freshly crowned champion in the International Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup, which is staged with identical cars as a series supporting Formula 1. The last few years have shown it's always very tight here. Last year, I had a nice and close fight with Michael Ammermuller. A few hundredths made the difference in qualifying. It's good that we're on pole here. The second fastest man in qualifying, talent pool driver Leon Köhler. The 21-year-old was less than 1/100th of a second short of the Dutchman. But during their preparations for the start, there was a problem with the young German's Porsche. The power steering pump failed 15 minutes before exiting the pits for the starting grid. I wasn't so nervous, to be honest. I knew the team always do a good job and that they'd manage, and that's what they did. Everything was fine. It took exactly 15 minutes to repair the car. Köhler only just making it to the starting grid. As the fastest in qualifying, ten Voorde takes up the 30-minute race plus 1 lap from pole position at the wheel of his 485 HP Porsche 911 GT3 car. And at the start of the race, the champion of the Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup defends his top spot at the start. Dylan Pereira overtaking Leon Köhler into the first corner. First time through the Amiga, Larry ten Voorde, Dylan Pereira, Leon Köhler, Diego Bertinelli and Julian Hanses, who's running in P5. This is a brilliant onboard shot. It's our splitter cam from the Joey Mawson car behind Tony Wolff, and a real battle going on, and you can see just how undulating this Sachsenring circuit is. Married, of course, with the abrasive tarmac across the 3.671 kilometers. 14 turns, 10 of them left, and 4 of them are right-handers. Let's get some replays of the start now, and first of all, you can see that P2 on the grid is often a good place to overtake the pole sitter, but on this occasion, Leon Köhler loses a position and drops down from P2 to P3. On board with Larry ten Voorde then, as we're approaching turn number 1, the right-hander, and you drop really downhill at turn number 1, and that onboard shot with Larry ten Voorde, and the fight going on, of course, immediately behind the pole sitter and race leader. This is on board with Carlos Rivas. Now he starts from P13 and is fighting with Kai van Berlo starting from P12. The battles come thick and fast as on lap 2 we can see now Felix Neuhofer fighting with Georgi Donchev. And this is for P13, and let's see it from an onboard perspective here. This is how close the cars get. Every single centimetre of tarmac is critical, as is avoiding contact, of course. And as we look back as the cars run downhill, this is just how close it can get in the Carrera Cup. In the meantime, Kai van Berlo and fellow countryman Rudy van Buren are fighting for P9, and Van Buren goes to set up an overtake here on Van Berlo and manages to get it done. A brilliant overtake move there, and contesting P9. Let's hear now from Rudy van Buren from Cartech Motorsport.
We just had a really good car in the second sector, so I could line them up into the high-speed corners, and that played the benefit in the race. I could overtake after the downhill or in the first corner. So yeah, I think in general it's a hard track to overtake, but today we made it happen.
He certainly did, and Rudy was not content with P9 as he now lines up Joey Mawson. Now this would be for P8 in the race. Rudy van Buren really on a mission here and doing a very good job, and another great overtake this time, putting his car ahead of Joey Mawson. But we are joining the battle for P1. We're on board with Dylan Pereira, who's lining up Larry ten Voorde going into the final turn here. Turn number 14, it's a long way around the outside here, but if Dylan Pereira can maintain the momentum, it will give him the inside line for turn number 1. and critically P1 in the race. Well, racing room left by Larry Tenvorder and Dylan Pereira as they run through the right-hander, picks up that P1 position.
Larry war richtig fair play da und hat mir auch Platz gelassen.
Larry was very fair and left me enough space. He's proved he's a fast driver when he won the Super Cup title. And he's fair too. And I treat him as he treats me. And as we hear from Dylan Pereira, we see that overtake once again going into turn number 1. Now, though, we're on board with Tony Wolff, who's pursuing Kai van Berlo. And with his splitter cam, we can see the contact here as Tony Wolff touches the car of Kai van Berlo. Let's continue our onboard shots then, and onboard now looking at Larry Tenvorder, who of course is running in P2, but is under pressure for that P2 place now from Leon Köhler. So Leon Köhler pushing hard then in the final stages of this race to overcome Larry Tenvorder, and sadly Tony Wolff then, as you can see, his car in the pit lane, it will be a DNF. So the penultimate lap as Larry Tenvorder still remains under pressure from Leon Köhler as they head up towards the start-finish line. Köhler desperately trying to get the inside for turn number 1, but that is being denied. Fair defense there from Larry Tenvorder. Of course, he lost out on the inside line through turn number 1 to Dylan Pereira just a few moments ago for the P1 spot. And in slow motion, the Pro-Am category, Stefan Rakoff overtaking Georgi Donchev, who is spinning after contact with Matthias Jeserich. So great that we picked that up in replay. And on the last lap, the last corner, Larry Tenvorder still under pressure from Leon Köhler. Dylan Pereira wins at the Sachsenring, the Luxembourger clinching his first victory in the German One-Make Cup. Larry Tenvorder, he takes second place, and Leon Köhler banks P3. Let's hear from Dylan Pereira. Larry was really fast for 5 laps, but I waited until the end. Then I was able to make up 1 to 2 tenths per lap. I thought I'd have a chance towards the end, and his tyres degraded significantly. That was good for me, of course, although that didn't mean overtaking would be easy. It was a little risky, but it worked out well, and I'm very glad about the victory. Leon Köhler then took the flag in 3rd place. After a turbulent race, here's what he has to say. I made a few mistakes. I skidded a little here and there, but by and large I'm satisfied. I fought for 2nd place towards the end. That didn't work, but I have taken decent points. The podium ceremony then with Robert Lucas as team principal of Birch Racing. Dylan Pereira, of course, on the top spot of the podium. The talent pool's debriefing after the first race. The young drivers watched the first race along with Wolf Hensler. The result, very good. The youngsters sealed P3 to P6. I'm very pleased. Many of the talent pool drivers were among the top drivers and fought for the podium. One of them scored a podium finish, another one was close. The drivers can further analyze the race in one-on-one conversations if they want. They get data on braking points, possibilities of overtaking, but also how to defend their position, and they appreciate their opportunities. It really helps us. On a weekend like this, it can always happen that we have problems and don't know what to do, so it's good to have Wolf Hensler. He supports us. And here comes race 2 of our 3-race program here at the Sachsenring, and Larry Tenvorder again on pole position. He set the fastest, 2nd fastest lap in the qualifying session. Leon Köhler will be going from P2. Now, during qualifying, he was just a 10th behind Larry Tenvorder. Dylan Pereira goes from P3. Of course, he was victorious in race 1 and will be hoping for more success in race 2. Perfect weather conditions at the moment for racing. So the green flag from the marshal at the rear indicates that the start sequence can get underway. All eyes on the lights at the top of the gantry, and away we go. Larry Tenvorder immediately closing the door on Leon Köhler as they head in towards turn number 1. Leon Köhler with a very good start. They continue to run downhill through the right-hander and almost come back upon themselves on the splitter cam there. Tony Wolff behind Julian Hanses. And now we're on board with Dylan Pereira, who's lost out to Diego Bertinelli and is now fighting with Lauren Heinrich. First time through the Amiga, it's Larry Tenvorder, Leon Köhler, Diego Bertinelli, Lauren Heinrich and Dylan Pereira, who is currently P5. Rudy van Buren got a bad start, now trying to overtake Lucas Oertel. And of course, with overtaking on his mind, Dylan Pereira doing the same here, trying to get the better of Bertinelli. And this would be for P4. So there is Bertinelli and Dylan Pereira having made that move stick. Let's get a replay of the start, and Joey Mawson hits the advertising hoarding. There you can see, just taking the corner off. On board with Dylan Pereira. And this is going into turn number 1. He just gets a touch there, and almost a touch from Julian Hanses, but it was enough for Leon Köhler to be able to go through. And a false start for Leon Köhler. He jumped it. He will get a 5-second time penalty. I think I eased off the clutch too quickly and rolled a little. It really wasn't a lot, perhaps 5 or 10 centimeters, but it was enough for a time penalty. Now there's a big battle going on for P4. Lauren Heinrich, who's trying to overtake Diego Bertinelli for that P4 position. So side by side then. And also trying to take advantage of this is Julian Hanses, who will try and overtake Lauren Heinrich for P5. And absolutely fantastic action to watch here, and Julian Hanses could be a beneficiary. So as they head into towards turn number 1, Kai van Berlo trying to overtake the entire pack, and after a chain reaction, Lauren Heinrich ends up in the gravel, which will mean safety car deployment for the safe recovery of the stricken Lauren Heinrich car. Let's hear what he had to say. Julian was only able to attack me because I'd wanted to overtake Diego Bertinelli beforehand. I hadn't seen Kai van Berlo on the inside. I'd say he went there pretty spontaneously. I wanted to avoid him, but there was no space on the outside. I got hit and ended up in the gravel. It all happened very quickly. It's a magnificent safety car, Porsche Taycan Turbo, and of course it will be a DNF for Heinrich. So at the restart then, it's Larry Tenvorder, Leon Köhler, of course he drops 5 seconds because of that time penalty, Dylan Pereira, Diego Bertinelli, and Kai van Berlo. On board with Neuhofer here, with Carlos Rivas running off the track, and you can see him kicking up the dust and debris coming off the back of the car as well. This packed group of Carrera Cup cars running through turn number 1, and Joey Mawson having to use opposite lock to control the slide on his car. On board now with Neuhofer. You can see Carlos Rivas approaching. Ahead of Neuhofer is Stefan Raykop. Into the inside goes Rivas, catches the curb and then catches the back end of the Neuhofer car. I think that really was just a racing incident. There was nothing, and there you can see Neuhofer trying to avoid the Stefan Raykopf car, gets hit by Rivas and around he goes. So pointing in the wrong direction, regrettably. Meantime, there's a fight going on for P8 between Van Buren and Joey Mawson. So on board looking backwards from the Joey Mawson car as we cross now to Van Buren as he tries to find a way past the number 96 machine ahead of him, and with an exit that is supreme here, he might be able to get alongside Joey Mawson going into the next turn. So it was a bold and ambitious move, but one that paid off. On board now with Leon Köhler. Bear in mind, he's got that 5-second time penalty to come. He's fighting with Dylan Pereira. Neither of them are aware of the time penalty that Leon Köhler is going to incur at the end of the race. So Dylan Pereira on the inside of Leon Köhler. And we can see it from on board with Leon Köhler. In the meantime, Van Berlo and Van Buren are fighting like before. But the fight would end up getting ever more physical. As you can see, a dive to the inside here, which was On this occasion, not going to work, spitting the number 12 car out into the gravel, which means the safety car is deployed. Now, we can see here Van Berlo and Van Buren. Now, Van Buren, first of all, got a 30-second time penalty, but it was later declared to be a racing incident with no further action. Let's hear from Kai Van Berlo.
Well, in the end, I'm not looking at it from his side, I'm looking at it from my perspective. And in the end, I was in the risk position because of my own driving, you know, and in the end, even I'm not going to judge anyway, but I think we shouldn't be in the risk position next time, and then those things don't happen, you know. That's something we need to focus on next time.
So, with a restart then from behind the safety car, Dylan Pereira on board as Larry Ten Voorde gets a good restart and builds just a little bit of a gap over Dylan Pereira. On board with Lucas Oertel, he's fighting with Joey Mawson. Carlos Rivas overtakes Stefan Raykopf here, with Carlos Rivas on the inside of Stefan Raykopf. Neuhofer overtaking Georgi Donchev. And in replay then, the Rivas overtake on Stefan Raykopf. They are, of course, both Pro-Am drivers, and a huge lockup behind, as you could see. And this is Christoph Huber looking on. And let's go on board with Larry Ten Voorde. In the last laps, his hottest pursuer, Dylan Pereira, lay in wait for his chance to overtake in vain. Ten Voorde fended him off to take the flag in first place after 21 laps. Now, due to the time penalty of Köhler, third place went to Diego Bertinelli. From the Porsche Carrera Cup talent pool, this was the Italian's first time on the podium in the German one-make cup. Julian Hanses from Germany finished P4 with his 21-year-old compatriot from the district of Saxony, Tony Wolff, crossing the finish line in fifth on home turf. It went much better today, but Dylan is still a bit faster than we are in the race. He put us under a lot of pressure, but he was at the limit. He made a few mistakes here and there. I was able to extend the gap a little. I'm glad, of course, for the team too. After winning the season opener in Le Mans, it's the second win for Ten Voorde and the first podium for Diego Bertinelli in the German one-make series.
I felt really good also because we don't have the radio with the team, so I didn't know I was third till the last lap. And when he called me number 9 on podium, I was really happy.
Kai Van Berlo's team have no reason to celebrate. The marshals have transported the 911 back to the paddock. The car must be repaired within 4 hours, but the damage is superficial. Van Berlo is confident he will be in the third race at the Sachsenring.
It's just a bit of bodywork and so on, and a bit of gravel in the car, but we'll be all right.
And sure enough, after great work from the team, just 2 hours later, his car is ready for the third and last race this weekend. Larry Ten Voorde, P2 on the grid as Dylan Pereira set the third fastest lap in qualifying, and his pole position for race number 3. Dylan Pereira defends P1 going into turn number 1. On board here, we can see the number 81 car on the outside. And Larry Ten Voorde being denied. From the splitter cam, Tony Wolff, Van Berlo and Oertel in front have contact, and that means that Lucas Oertel is in the gravel, and therefore the safety car will, not for the first time this weekend, be deployed. And at the restart, Dylan Pereira leads Larry Ten Voorde, Leon Köhler, Julian Hanses and Lauren Heinrich, who is in P5. Donchev fighting with Raykopf and overtaking the German. Rivas is leading in the Pro-Am category after Matthias Jeserich winning race number 2. It's the second Pro-Am victory for Carlos Rivas this weekend. This splitter cam provides some fantastic shots, and once again we are on board the Tony Wolff car. Bertinelli in front of him, off the track, damaging his tyre, the inside rear right tyre. And the damage was caused on the transition from the gravel to the racing surface, which we can see here better in replay. You can see how the car really dips down, and that's when the damage was done. Let's go on board with Dylan Pereira, the Luxembourger clinching a Leicester flag victory. Larry Ten Voorde managed to keep the gap to less than a second over large stretches of the race, but was unable to put serious pressure on Pereira. After 4 of 11 races, Ten Voorde from the Netherlands retains his top spot in the standings with 90 points. Pereira's on 79 and Köhler on 60 points ranked second and third. 2 times P1 and P2, we could have hardly done better. Your most recent result defines how famous you are. I was at the top this morning, I'm second now, so we must work hard until the race is at the Red Bull Ring. But we're used to that and I'm looking forward to it. Chin up and move on. The third Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland weekend also features 3 races. Spielberg hosts the One Make Cup supporting the ADAC GT Masters from the 16th to the 19th of October.